Friends, welcome to English Study Point. Today, here in this video lecture, I am going to discuss with you about a Curtal sonnet. So, a poem containing 10.5 lines in a stanza is called as Curtal sonnets, and we also describe Curtal sonnets as curtailed sonnets, also contracted sonnets. So, curtal sonnets are also known as curtailed as well as contracted sonnets. So, a poem containing 11 lines is called as curtal sonnet, and these sonnets are totally different from normal sonnets because a poem which contains 14 lines that we describe as sonnet, but curtal sonnets contain 11 lines, and we call them as curtailed sonnets because they are very shorter in length. So a short sonnet in a literal way is called also called as curtal sonnet, and these type of sonnets or invention of this type of sonnet is done by a writer whose name is G.M. Hopkins, Gerard Manley Hopkins. Now I am proceeding with this video lecture. So, this is a form invented by Gerard Manley Hopkins and used in three of his poems. So, this particular form was first used by G.M. Hopkins in three of his poems, and also I will let you know in which three poems he used this particular sonnet, that is curtal sonnets, in the later part of this video. Then, Gerard Manley Hopkins used this term in his preface to poems. So, this is a book in which he used or made readers aware about his invention of this particular type of sonnet, that is curtal sonnet. So, Gerard Manley Hopkins used the term in his preface to poems. That this particular work was published by him in 1918 to describe about a curtailed form of sonnet of his invention. And likewise, I have already said you that curtal sonnet can also be known as curtal sonnet as well as curtailed sonnet and also contracted sonnets. Then, curtal sonnet refers to a sonnet of 11 lines. So, we describe these sonnets as a poem which contains 10.5 lines. So that particular kind of poem is called as curtal sonnet. So these sonnets contains not 11 lines but 10.5 lines, and also I am showing you example that how it contains 10.5 lines. So, and also this particular sonnet follow fixed rhyming scheme of ABC ABC DCB DC, then ABC ABC DB CDC. Then it is described as a 10.5 line sonnet. So likewise, I have already said you that these sonnets contain 10.5 lines. So a poetry which contains 10.5 lines in a single stanza, that is called as curtal sonnet due to shorted half line. Then, so this is an example of a poetry by Gerard Manley Hopkins, and these are last lines. So I have picked up last lines from the poetry of Gerard Manley Hopkins, that is Pied Beauty. So I took this example from Gerard Manley Hopkins' poetry, that is Pied Beauty, and his poetry, this particular poetry contains 11 lines, but I have picked up last 5 lines of this stanza in order to make you understand why these sonnets contain 10.5 lines. Now I am reading these lines. All things counter, original, spare, strange, whatever is fickle, frackled, who knows how, with swift, slow, sweet, sour, a dazzle dim, he fathers forth, whose beauty is past change, praise him. So you can see here that these are 7, 8, 9, 10, and last one is 11th line, which is very shorter one. So a short line, a very short line at the last of this particular stanza, so that can be described as curtal sonnet, and these sonnets contain 10.5 lines because at the end of at the ending line of this particular sonnet contains a stanza which in which there is mentioning of a very short line at the end. So that is why we describe them as 10.5 lines, not 11 line stanza. Then Hopkins' sonnet uses 6 lines as the first part of the poem and uses 4.5 lines rather the traditional 6. So, in normal sonnets, there is division between two stanzas, and first stanza contains 8 lines, and then another stanza contains 6 lines. But in Curtal sonnet, first stanza contains 6 lines and then another stanza contains 5 lines. So together they form 11 lines or 10.5 lines. So Hopkins' sonnet uses 6 lines as the first part of the poem. So here I want to add up something that Hopkins here, Gerard Manley Hopkins, reduced the number of lines from 14 to 10 and divide and 10 and half and divided into two stanzas, one of 6 lines and the other of 4 with a half line tail piece. So they together form 10.5 lines. I am repeating this again, that Gerard Manley Hopkins reduced the number of lines from 14 to 10 and a half stanza and divided it into two stanzas. One stanza contains 6 lines and the other stanza contains 4.5 lines, and together they form 10.5 lines. So that is why they are described as curtal sonnets, because they are very shorter in length. And this particular curtal sonnet, this type of sonnet was used first by G.M. Hopkins as a form in their poetry, and I am naming those poems which are great examples of Curtal sonnet. So first poetry is Pied Beauty, then another one is Peace, and last one is Ash Box. So these three poetries by Gerard Manley Hopkins are great examples of Curtal sonnet. Then this is Pied Beauty, a poetry by Gerard Manley Hopkins, and I am here in this slide showcasing you the kind of rhyming scheme or division of rhyming scheme in Curtal sonnet. So glory be to God for dappled things, for skies of couple color as a brinded cow. So here you can see that things, I remark this particular word with a rhyme scheme. Then for skies of a couple color as a brinded cow, so I mark this particular cow with a rhyming scheme, associated it with B. Then for rose moles all in steeple upon trout that swim. So I remark this particular word with C rhyme scheme. Then fresh fire coal chestnut falls finches wings. I remark this particular wings, this word with again a rhyme scheme. Then landscape plotted and piced fold fellow and plow. Again I remark this particular word plow with B rhyme scheme, because here you can see cow as well as plow sound similar to each other. So and then and all trades their gear and tackle and trim. So again trim, I remark this particular word with C rhyme scheme, because you can see here swim as well as trim sounds similar. So I have already said you that Curtal sonnets are first stanza of Curtal sonnet divided into contains 6 lines. So here you can see these lines contain six. These lines are 6 in total, and rhyme scheme is ABC ABC. Then I am reading another stanza. All things counter, original spare strange. So here strange is pronounced differently, so that is why I remark this particular word with D rhyming scheme. Then whatever is fickle, frackled, who knows how. How, again I mark this particular rhyme scheme with this word with B rhyme scheme. Then with swift, slow, sweet, sour, a dazzle, dim. So dim swim as well as trim sound similar. So again I mark this particular word with C rhyming scheme. Then he fathers forth whose beauty is past change. So here you can see strange as well as change sound similar. So I remark also this particular word change with D rhyming scheme. So at the very end of this particular stanza, there is a line which is very shorter, that is praise him. So this particular hymn, uh, dim as well as him sounds very similar. So that is why I remark this particular word dim with C rhyming scheme. So here you can see that Curtal sonnets contain 10.5 lines in total, and last line means the ending of this particular stanza, that is 10.5 line, is very short. So that is why we cannot count this particular curtal sonnet with 11 lines, but instead of 11 lines we remark this particular sonnet with a poem containing 10.5 lines in total. So here with this particular video lecture ends here. Hope this video lecture will help you in your UGC NET English literature exam.